Hey folks, Joe Gornick here. I want to talk to you a little bit today about advertising, kind of what it used to be and what it is today. The name of this lecture is Let's Get Rich, and that's because we're going to talk about getting rich with information as well as what the difference between static and rich animation is, or rich advertising, rich media. So with that said, back in the day, we're advertising a car. This is a very famous ad done in the 60s. But you can see basically there's a very strong visual, a headline, and some body copy, right? And ads obviously had a different look back in the day. Here's an ad for Coca-Cola that's actually illustrated versus the photo of the car. And now here we have a very punch in your face kind of headline and a product of a cassette tape. So what you're seeing is, how things were sold back in the day in print, right? So media consumption used to always be a tactile experience. You touched things. So whether you were picking up magazines and newspapers or reading them at the breakfast table, it was something that you basically had to pick up and look at, right? So as you know, if we're advertising today, things are a little bit different, but history kind of has repeated itself. So whether you're advertising a car, as we're seeing here in this BMW ad from LinkedIn, or a beverage, in this case Heineken, using illustration, or a service that is music, we're still advertising the three same things: a car, a beverage, and music, but the medium or the way we consume it is completely different, right? But what's important to notice is that, how we consume media is completely different, right? We have all these different apps available to us today. We carry a device in our hands where we can access this information at all times, so we don't have to wait for the breakfast table or go to a magazine stand. It's with us at all times. So with that being said, I'd like to talk about, what ads do, what they must do. So the very first thing an ad must do is engage people, right? So back in the day, they did it one way, and today we do it a very similar way, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. But the very first thing an ad does is engage. And then it informs you, right? It educates you. And then lastly, it persuades you to go out and do something. What do you want people to do? You want them to buy your product or service. So you want to make it easy. People are lazy. So you want to tell them what you're selling and why they need it. So back to my example of selling music back in the day, we see a professional cassette here, and we see on the right an ad for Lyft, right? Which is obviously a car service. So let's talk about how things have changed or how they haven't. Both of these ads propose an advantage with a headline, right? It's either a professional cassette or earn at least $2,500 a month. They're trying to get drivers, right? And then they have very engaging visuals. On the left, our friend with this cassette right in your face. On the right, a nice illustration of the car. It lets you know that this must have something to do with cars. And then lastly, a clear call to action. On the left, buy 3 and get C60 free. And on the right, apply now. So we see a nice strong headline. We see engaging visuals and a clear call to action. So whether it was done in the 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s versus how we're doing it today, there's still a basic premise of proposing an opportunity, having engaging visuals, and a clear call to action. So with that said, I'd like to talk about static media, right? So static media is media that doesn't move, right? It doesn't have any animation to it. And it appears in all these platforms. So for example, we have a static ad here, advertising on LinkedIn, right? And it's advertising a software. And you can see that they're doing that, again, with a nice headline, a nice visual, and they have a call to action, learn more. Here's another illustration, and it's a ad for MailChimp, and advertising their services. Again, engaging, having a nice headline, and a call to action. Nike, same thing, showing the product, but not just the product by itself, but in a unique way. An advertisement for a bike delivery service. So you see nice big headlines here. You're seeing call to actions, right? Here's one for Hulu, right? So a nice big bold headline. We see a TV. Right away we know what we're selling. It makes it easy for folks to understand. Here's our Lyft ad again. If we take that more into the restaurant side of things, we see, the logo of the company, a nice headline, a strong supporting visual, and an order now. It's all about the concept that you're trying to convey. So here's an ad for Monday. This is a online software tool to organize and traffic jobs within an ad agency. They've got a nice headline that basically says, take control of your team's workflow, and a call to action that says, get started. And they're showing like sliders, like on a mixing board, where you would take control of workflow. A medication advertisement does kind of the same thing. A very engaging visual, a headline, call to action. Here's a travel static advertisement. Again, these are all being shown on social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, and I'm sure you recognize the formats. But there's a nice advantage and an opportunity, a nice visual, and a good call to action. Here's a massage company showing, again, strong visual, an offer here, and a call to action, get the offer. So vitamins, same thing, right? Nice strong headline, a call to action, strong visual. You see that all of these have that in common. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, although I know I probably already do, but the idea here is that you got to really make it easy for folks. I said it earlier, if folks are lazy. You want to make it easy for folks to digest the information. A lot of times we get so caught up in trying to be creative that we forget that, people are scrolling fast. And so you got to make it easier for folks to know what it is you're selling. Are you selling plywood and lumber, or are you selling a sandwich? What is it you're selling? A few more here for your viewing pleasure. So showing the product, but bringing the human element in, right? Showing people you're a press away from everything you need to be espresso kings and queens. It's a nice strong headline. It's a little long, but it does the job. It's supported by a visual, and it's got a shop now. Whether you're selling espresso machines or pet care, bringing emotion in is smart. We relate to people. We're designing ads for other people, or in this case, a pet. So when we see eyes or a happy face, we connect with that. But again, strong headline, supporting visuals, swim trunks. And then the difference is when you get into rich media, we have motion, right? So you saw a little bit of that there. But so on the left, we have a static ad for FanDuel. And on the right, we have a rich media ad for Expedia. And so the difference is that when we play the Expedia ad, we see that there's things happening and there's movement. Now, some of these are much more grand than I expect of you in this class, but I want you to see the possibilities of rich media. Rich media is much more likely to be viewed by people just because it grabs your attention by just sitting there on the page as you're scrolling. So when we talk about rich media, there's lots of ways to do that, but the same premise applies. You can create a nice static ad that works, and then take that static ad and create a movement piece out of it, or a rich media ad. And these are examples of all different types of ads that show the possibilities, whether using photography or illustration, or even here a combination of both. There's many different ways to do this. And again, in this class, we're going to be focused on doing some basic moves with like opacity changes and, scale and just moving type in. This class is more focused on the conceptual side of things, and we'll talk more about that in another lecture. Looking more at rich media advertisements, you can see how these animated GIFs can get your attention. They all have a call to action. Here's a simple one from Starbucks. Again, people are scrolling, they're moving fast. So you can see the difference between, clearly see the difference between what is an animated or rich media ad versus a static ad. Here's a real simple one advertising, Spotify, listening to Simon and Garfunkel. It's just got some smooth moves of type coming in, a scaled image, and a call to action. Here's one for Klarma. Again, you can again see all the same things that I've been talking about, whether it's static or rich media. You have a nice solid call to action, always supported by strong visuals, and a very nice headline that tells people what it is that they're shopping for. Here's one for American Express. Again, just a little bit of simple movement. And the idea here, again, is just to engage people. We're much more likely to engage when we have something that is moving. This is a delivery food service. Again, nice call to action at the end. And they always leave the call to action, if you notice, on screen at the end. Never does a video end and there's not a place for a user to click. So something to keep in mind as you're working on your projects is always make sure that a call to action shows up at the end and your video doesn't just fade off to white, that there's always a learn more or download now or buy now, shop now, some sort of very specific call to action that you want people to take. Again, here's use of a little more advanced illustration work. And then to the right here's a cabinets to go, just alternating photos, a little bit of movement, a little tail wag from our friend the dog. So you get the idea in general. So I just wanted to kind of go through, how advertising has not changed in the way that it's developed, but it has changed in the way it's served up to us. So no longer do we pick up that magazine or have to go to a place to specifically buy a newspaper. That all is fed directly into our hands today. And that's the whole idea of getting rich. So I hope that provides some clarification for you, and I look forward to delivering my next lecture to you. Thank you.